Hey there, House from BestRevenueWriter.com, here to bring you a video about live streaming as it pertains to right now, October 2020. I have some stats for you based on one of the new podcasts that just came out, the BestRevenueWriter.com podcast, Revenue Writers, which can be found on Spotify, Apple, Anchor.fm, some of the snippets here on YouTube. So according to TechJourney.net, 96% of people say that they've watched an explainer video to learn more about a product or service. 79% say a brand's video has convinced them to buy a piece of software or an app, and to nobody's surprise, millennials have been the largest consumers of live streaming content. We're 18 to 34, 63% say they have watched it regularly. And it's grown 99% in just 1 year. And that's from Daily Esports, which was from April 2019 to April 2020. Projected that it would be $70 billion by 2021. Which is the biggest live streaming platform. Facebook is a close second, and then Mixer at number 3. But by 2027, which is just 7 years away, it should be worth $184 billion. And most say that they would rather watch a live video from a brand than to read their blog at 82%. Now, having some experience with live streaming as of lately, I could say that for the B2B area specifically, it's going to take some innovation. Twitch being the largest platform for streaming, which is known as a gaming platform primarily, and that most of the consumer base over there is there to watch games. Not so much have interactions with big businesses. So interesting for marketing executives and startup founders on how they plan on hiring new marketing talent. It leaves a lot of questions, such as, would there be an open position just for live streaming? Is it going to rely on PR professionals? The problem with that is if a consumer base gets a little bit too comfortable with the host, whoever is the PR professional, and that person decides to leave, what happens now to that channel? Does the following leave with that person, or is the replacement that comes in going to be able to pick up the load? That's one of the biggest questions that's going to be on the spreadsheets of investors, and when marketing executives and their CEOs are in the boardroom planning their budgets, that will most certainly factor into those plans. Now, another thing to consider too is going half in and half out is going to be a tough strategy to see the return on investment that would promote further funding for the program. Now, being a startup and business consultant and having worked with many CEOs and startup founders, I can say that the half-in, half approach typically fails. And it's for the reasons you think it would. Because it fails to hit. That message isn't as sharp as it could be. It's very hard to hit when you have little conviction behind your message, and it creates something worthwhile from a consumer's point of view, because that takes time and study, of course. But the catch-22 is that it's hard to get funding and buy-in when there's not really an ROI that can be proven immediately. But there's no doubt that the personal connection that you're able to build with consumers through live stream is huge. It cannot be ignored, especially when you look at the statistics that by 2027 it's supposed to be an over $100+ billion industry. You have to imagine that investors will be giving brownie points to companies that are forward-thinking and have a strong live streaming development program. So I would say that the biggest prediction that I'm going to make based off the current trends and the numbers that we're looking at right now is that it's going to be important to build something that's highly entertaining. I would highly recommend not going half in and half out, that if you're going to put all resources into this program, make sure that you button up the details, because that's going to ultimately determine whether or not the engagement rate is there. As we talked about on the last episode, being able to adapt and overcome, pivot as some people like to say, is going to be important. That's where that skill will come in handy here, is learning from the mistakes and the engagement, and then fine-tuning from there. The companies that weather the storm until they can work out the kinks, have something that, as a proven concept that people are tuning into, will reap the benefits without question, especially when we don't know how long this new normal thing is going to last. This one is for my B2B crowd specifically. That closing deals face-to-face, there is an overwhelmingly high effectiveness rate when it comes to closing deals face-to-face. The next best thing at that point, acting with your audience, your client, is going to be live streaming. So that leaves the question then, are new marketers going to have to be more personable, extroverted, comfortable on camera? Is there going to be outsourcing for this? Is there going to be a revolving door of casts in order to prevent too much of a loyal following to the face and not so much the business, the writers that are behind creating the scripts for the PR person? There's a lot up in the air, but to have this information now will help you plan for these new changes, adapt, and then build your strategy around an evolving and very exciting industry such as live streaming. I am House from BestRevenueWriter.com. Make sure to follow us, either subscribing down below or by following us on Spotify for the Revenue Writers podcast. We'll see you next time.